My restaurant hosted my sister's 150K birthday. She pointed at me and said, "Homeless, get out." Written by TurboScribe.ai. Go unlimited to delete this notice. Never would I have imagined the day when my own sister would ruthlessly toss me out of my own hotel in the midst of raging music and false laughing from people who hardly knew who I was. Get that destitute girl out of here. She's souring the opulence. Coming from Emily, the young sister I had watched over during our childhood, the phrase struck me in the face like a slap in front of the audience. I paused. Not ashamed of it. From suffering, nevertheless. Realizing everyone in my family knew about this before, and no one stopped it, stung much more. It was Austin, Texas, a September evening. 10 years of my life had been spent into creating from scratch at the Red Cypress Hotel, which now served as the scene for a pompous birthday celebration. Emily entered the great lobby in a sparkling dress, arm around her new lover Chase, then a throng of individuals suited for the Met Gala instead of a 30th birthday celebration followed. Having just finished a last staff check, I was standing at the front desk when she stared squarely at me like I was a stain on the marble floor. "Oh my gosh," she joked, "who allowed a homeless lady stroll into the hotel?" Then looked to a perplexed staff member. "Since this is a private gathering and nobody is permitted to sour the atmosphere, kindly manage this for me." I gave no thought to responding. I glanced at her just now, into those eyes displaying no awareness, not even a little bit of guilt. James is seeing what was occurring from a distance. My event manager hurried over. His face became pale as he learned I was insulted by my own customer. "I'm so sorry, Miss Hannah. Do you want me to call off the event right now?" I'm not sure when they entered. I only gave a head shake. Not sure. Let them go on. Stalled, mute. I wanted to know how many more individuals in this disaster knew. The response arrived quicker than I anticipated. I found my folks in the richly ornamented dinner area with white flowers and golden ribbons. Last year on their anniversary, my mother wore the outfit I got her. My father was speaking with Chase's family while sipping wine. Not even ashamed to see me. They nodded like I was hotel personnel. Nobody questioned me about my peaceful corner standing. Nobody corrected for what transpired in the lobby. Emily stood in the middle of the room, waving her champagne glass high. Thank you everyone for attending. Particularly, I want to thank my older sister Hannah for covertly sponsoring the whole evening event. The hallowed chamber burst with cheers. I stayed still, numb. Though I had never agreed to spend $1 for this celebration, Emily's victorious grin and the loud cheering all around me helped me to see. All had been planned by them. They thought I would pay, not asked. I got out my phone and texted Grace, the finance manager of the hotel. Review all tonight's bills. Freeze any spending under my name that I haven't authorized. Instantaneously. I then turned to leave the room. Nobody inquired where I was going or phoned me back. I knew exactly at that instant. For them, I had not really been family. Just a walking wallet with a blood tie. 3 days after that embarrassing party, I arrived to my parents' Lakewood, North Austin residence in response to an invitation and realized it was only a family gathering under masquerade. The 2-story red brick home appeared precisely as it did since high school. Apart from the oak tree in the yard, now replaced with a white seat that seems phony, as false as the moral standards among the individuals living therein. Carol, my mother, smiled more formally than a bank teller's upon opening the door. "Hannah here. Come in. We have been waiting for you." She turned and walked away like I was a late food delivery before I could say anything. The dinner table was set meticulously, with the porcelain dishes my mother only brought out for Christmas or when anything major was underway. Sitting across from my father, Charles, who was cutting a slice of bread like it may spare him from the next talk, Emily sat slightly twisted, one leg crossed, wearing a fitting green dress that highlighted the form she often spoke about as if it were her greatest success in life. Emily started by bringing her red wine glass to eye level. This 31st birthday ought to be something regarding the scope of a reality TV program. I ignored it. I just stared her in the eye, biding my time for the act to start. I have spoke with various folks involved in event planning. At the Vela Blue Hotel is a rooftop area, straight view of the Pennybacker Bridge. We may have a flower fountain, live music stage, even a hanging champagne bar. Emily stopped for effect, then shrugged as like it meant nothing. I turned to study my mother. She kept quiet. I turned to ask my father. Still chewing on his bread was he, Emily said, removing a color-printed page from her handbag. The estimated cost is around $95,000. But, we'll need at least $110,000 if we want to become really legendary, including expenses for video creation. And you expect me to pay for that? I asked, not loud but harsh enough to stop the space. Emily pointed an eyebrow. You run a hotel, after all. You spend not that much on yourself. You drive that ancient Honda and always wear black. Nonetheless. Me? I create stuff for content purposes. I have to build my image. There is a professional path here. I let out a dry chuckle. Oh, I believed it was a birthday. My mother dropped her spoon on the dish, the sound alerting like a warning bell. Emily makes a valid argument. You now occupy a better position, helping your sister out only once. What is the damage in that? You once pledged, I recall, to always look after the family. I turned to face her. Either take care of the family or sponsor pointless shows endlessly without limit. When at last my father spoke. Hannah, let us not become too excited. Here we are simply enjoying a peaceful talk. Nodded. Ageless, you all arranged to waste my money without consulting me. And you characterize it as calm? Emily laughed. That of someone who knows they are backed up. Come on, two. Don't present me as mooching off you. Not asking for pocket money here. One is making an investment here. When the party video starts to run, tag you and advertise your hotel. There is a benefit for both sides. Win for the person you are, I murmured between tight teeth, heart thumping hard in my chest. You become legendary while I miss $110,000. Fantastic offer. My mother let out a sigh. Once I mistaken for love, this tone now sounded like practiced disappointment. Hannah, the conscientious one is you. Emily dreams she is. She is not responsible for your more pragmatic mind type. Normal is sisters supporting one another. That statement pierced me like a razor already honed. I was not personal. I was grounded, not permitted to object, a walking ATM showing up on time. I laid my napkin on the table. When it is reciprocal, sisters support one another. Not when one gives over a bill and says, "You pay." If this is what this family defines as love, I'm sorry then. I cannot live in that definition any longer. Emily's eyebrows shot upward. You really are serious? I stared her squarely in the eye. Dead. Real. When I got up, no one said. I left the table and nobody stopped me. But loud enough for me to hear, my mother said as I arrived at the door. She grows colder the more money that girl has. I turned neither around. I omitted answering. I understood at that same instant. I had not actually been a daughter in this home all these years. I had been the backup B for finances, bridging the difference between nameless bills and dream fantasies. Being treated like a walking wallet by my own family seemed to me to be the worst possible situation. Until the next morning, I opened Instagram. At the top of the screen, a notice asking Add Emily appeared. Rose introduced 3 fresh tales. Though my thumb tapped anyhow, I had no incentive to look. One old habit I hadn't broken was knowing you're going to witness something terrible, but yet looking nevertheless. First frame. Emily in a white limousine stopped outside the Vela Blue Hotel, her lips vivid red and her hair in waves, holding a champagne glass like a queen on procession. Could someone explain why your sister owns a 5-star hotel but drives a 2012 Civic? Under it, the laughing emoji is rolling on the floor. The next clip, clearly recorded from a vehicle, a wobbly video. My automobile. I came out of my residence. Old coat, sloppy ponytail with a document folder, and Emily had produced a split screen. One side alone. Me. Conversely, she and her buddies are captioned in a glitzfully furnished place. Invest all your money on land, but neglect to make investments in your image. I didn't have to search the comments. Already sufficient to cut deep was what was on the screen. OMG. How could someone live like that and be rich? Give up posing as a poor girl. Be genuine. That place is doomed. Who would let her handle public relations for a hotel? The blood hammering in my ears was the only thing I could hear. Setting the phone down on the table, I inhaled deeply and gazed up at the ceiling like it would have the solution to the one question still reoccurring in my head. For what reason? Emily, why? Why, my own sister, I kept my distance from public reaction. I did not post some furious status, did not create a reaction video or repost, but cracked something inside of me. Not just a fracture, but also more. A calm fall. Not loud, yet hefty like a stone. At 9 a.m., Grace and my assistant from finance texted me. "Have you read Emily's updated account? Ask me to do anything." My response consisted of only one word: not number. I opened my laptop, grabbed the quarterly report, and sank myself into spreadsheets. My eyes failed to concentrate, however. The figures melted in the silence humiliation that flooded my breast. Nowadays, this was not a personal dispute. This was an intentional public cowardly assault. Emily wanted more than simply me paying quietly. She aimed to make me miserable. A part of me had become accustomed to being passed over. I used to think that soon my family would notice me if I just kept my head down and worked hard. But this time was unique. This time, I understood. I was no longer the victim of neglect. Target of deliberate contempt was me. I sat by myself in the kitchen that evening, under the warm golden light falling on the wood table. My residence wasn't elegant or large, but every restless night had this effect. Every money I managed to save. Back then, working night shifts as a front desk clerk, I looked at the wall picture. Young children smiling with melting popsicles in our hands. Emily and myself, I left it in place instead. I glanced at it just now, still silent. I went to work on writing. Not a hit list or a payback scheme, simply a list. One straight line. Did they ever show me love? Alternatively, simply adore what I can provide. A second line follows. Should I lose everything? Who would still remain? Not yet, however. I lacked the responses. But for the first time, I felt like I should be asking questions. I messaged my attorney first in months the following morning. I want a comprehensive assessment of every personal item. Make sure nobody has signing power on my behalf. Critical. This no longer was a feeling. This amounted to getting ready. Family used to be holy, but now I see otherwise. If led uncontrolled, certain relationships will silently swallow you. And I refuse to let it happen once again. Grace, my assistant, softly knocked and peeped in as I was in a third-floor Red Cypress Hotel meeting with the operations staff. "Hannah, you have a guest here." I turned to check the time. PM 3:14.14. I had nothing booked. "That person is who? Mrs. Carol?" Grace said softly. "She would not wait in the lobby." My throat was dry right away. "Send her in," I commanded in a stern, ordered tone. Firmer than required, but Grace knew. She nodded and vanished behind the door. Less than a minute later, my mother entered the conference room looking as if it were her homeroom. Long beige coat, big Coach handbag looped over her arm, and a flawlessly made-up face unable to conceal the calculating behind it. "Grace, your daughter, is very courteous," she added, set her bag on the chair opposite from me, then took out a little plastic container. "Still using the same recipe, I brought your preferred banana bread along with some cinnamon for digestion's aid. I left the container untouched." I did not grin. "Mom, what drives you here?" I questioned directly. She took a cream envelope out of her pocketbook and laid it between us like a summons on the table. Emily whispered softly, pulling over her records. "You need to check over them." I went to open the mail. Inside were 3 color-printed A4 papers branded under Valeria Events, an event organizing business. At top, in a flowing typeface, it read. Halfway down the second page, Emily's 30th birthday celebration caught one line in bright pink marker. Looking up confirmed I found Hannah Blake, primary sponsor, 112,500. Verify who precisely validated this. Carol did not waver. "You know, Emily, she cannot afford the event. I am on retirement income and your father is now as well. Only you may be of assistance." "Support?" I started again, my voice catching. "You're phoning, helping my sister show off online by making me pay over $100,000? "Don't be theatrical, Hannah," she advised, running her coat's edge smooth. "Nobody is pushing anything. We simply thought you knew your obligations." Responsibility? I tossed the papers away, no longer disguising my wrath. Why am I always the one? Emily has hands, an intellect, thousands of followers. Why cannot she look after it? My mother sighed, like you might when a youngster is acting out of hand. "You are the oldest. The steady one, the accomplished one, Hannah. Just this once let Emily shine. You have always been behind stage helping everyone. Now what's so different? Unable to remain corned anymore? I got up. What distinguishes us? Nobody wanted to know if I agreed. No one inquired about my feelings. You guys just mailed me the bill and made preparations. That seems unjust, don't you think? She answered, remaining sitting with calm to the point of insult, not unreasonable. It's required. Since you are dependable, people depend on you, Hannah. You should be glad of that. I stared at her as if she were speaking a foreign language, not enraged nor resentful, just a weird sensation from someone realizing I was just exploited, never really loved. I grabbed the banana bread, walked behind the refrigerator, and pushed it into the freezer. Startled, she said, "What are you doing?" I spoke softly about the freezer. Where does one place objects that dull emotions? I turned back then, fixed her in the eyes. I have no signatures on anything. I am not paying a single dollar. There are no plans going forward without my permission. She got up, incredulous eyes blazing. Hannah, you have become rather tough. I nod. I appreciate you observing. Should Valeria events need a contact, you may provide it to my lawyer. Otherwise, do not come here with additional ideas. I am not a wallet driven by heartbeat. She looked at me a few seconds, then turned and left. Not a farewell, not a word, just a trail of strong perfume and a birthday budget I never approved of. In the still room, sunshine slanted through the window, illuminating the vibrant papers on the table. I did not pull them apart. I labeled them with the red marker, evidence, and placed them in the drawer under my desk. These days, this was not about sentiment. It had no bearing on emotions. For business, this was Wednesday morning. Grace showed up at my office door as I was looking over the Red Cypress rooftop maintenance report. There was no knock this time, not hesitating. Her hand held a hefty manila envelope. Verity Planning Group delivers express goods, she remarked straightforwardly, laying it on my desk as she would have just laid down a bomb. I raised my eyes to her. Sensual. Grace gracedly, just slightly. Helper to Chase, fiancé of Emily, saying labels. You, Argent Hannah Blake, personal and economical. I had no need to open it to find out what I was going to read. I opened it anyhow, however. Inside was a formal booking contract from the Aria Sky Lounge, a luxurious rooftop venue in the middle of the city, renowned for staging lavish parties with sky-high price tags. One person who recognized the worth of $1 would not find the cover with its gold-embossed emblem, thick paper stock, and slight aroma appealing. I turned over to page 5. Under a financial guarantor, block Hannah Blake, sister to the celebrant, signature, needed according to 11-3. Fine text below in italics. Should the main party not pay, the financial guarantor will take full legal liability. I let out a dry chuckle. No call, no justification, not even a query. Like some old habit, just a contract slapped in my face and expected to be signed. Grace tuned in for my response. I had nothing to say. Rather, I pushed the whole package together, slipped it under my desk, and secured it with a key. I am not signing, I thought Grace said, somewhat smirting. Would you want me to toss it? I gave my head a shake. Not at all. Just leave it. Class it as financial abuse. First step. Opening my laptop, I made a fresh folder. Emily, legal proof. Inside, I included subfolders, contractual agreements and illegal emails, personal assault stories and defamatory tales, staff witness statements linked to events. I passed the contract through the scanner next to my desk, precisely documenting each page as though in a criminal case. My hands were consistent. I not blinked. Once deemed unappreciative, I was not the daughter wailing in her bed anymore. The family was suffering, so I wasn't the elder sister gritting her teeth and paying her dues. Oversaw a roughly $8 million company, and for the first time in my life, I was managing family as I would have a high-risk partner. I sent the hotel's legal staff a quick note that afternoon. Subject: deny all unverified personal transmission, except specifically confirmed in writing with verifiable documents by Hannah Blake. We do not accept any contracts, agreements, or financial offers sent by other parties on behalf of Hannah Blake. Everything else is to be turned down and sent straight to legal. Hannah B., I sent no texts, no calls, no email to Emily. I let her wonder what I was doing. Long enough silence creates a wall, and I was developing one for which she lacked climbing ability. With requests, alternatively using crocodile tears. 3 days later, Mom sent me a note. Emily wanted to create a nice memory. Her sorrow, you haven't replied. I silence. I sent the mail straight into the evidence folder. I stood before the mirror in the Red Cypress Lounge that evening as I sealed off my office. I glanced at me, eyes worn from lack of sleep, shirt slightly crumpled at the shoulder, a chipped nail. Still, the eyes in the mirror were no more puzzled. They were cool as a lake before a storm and as sharp as knives. Emily didn't know I didn't just withdraw every time she attempted to corner me with a fresh demand. I wrote notes. I created a legal road of course. This time, I wasn't alone even if they drove me to the brink. I legally had the law. I carried documents, and I owned myself. A version of myself no longer ready to pardon deception, simply because it passed for family. The Red Cypress Hotel looked like a dream castle that day. The broad lobby windows in gold came alive in late afternoon illumination. Soft music came from the upper balcony as white flowers gracefully and precisely lined the corridors. Where was Emily's birthday celebration scheduled to start? A party she planned via a third-party vendor at my hotel, not noticed without authorization, not even the politeness of inquiries. Emily felt herself to be intelligent. She reasoned that I would remain silent to maintain peace by scheduling the event via an outside firm, therefore avoiding interfering. She did, however, overlook one item. I no longer follow the conventional wisdom. Grace trailed after me, iPad in hand, displaying the guest list and event calendar. She stopped beside the surveillance camera, swiped softly, then pointed to the central screen. Main lobby camera 15 minutes ago. I stared. Emily showed up, arm locked with Chase, her new lover. Chase's parents were right behind them, Mr. and Mrs. Dalton, well-known Houston real estate investors. Walking in as like they owned the property, they examined every aspect as though they were judging it. Emily led them across the lobby like a self-permitted tour guide, her hand gesturing at the marble spiral staircase and glittering chandeliers. I knew what she was saying without sounds. 8 months to ship. The Italian chandelier's interior design comes from my family. Live here. I changed the sleeve on my blue jacket, inhaled deeply, and started down the main stairway. Every step I took on the marble reflected through the foyer like a quiet proclamation. Heads moved. Emily, too. Her eyes wide, half disbelief, part terror, she stopped midway through a statement. A slight grin playing on my lips. I paused halfway down the steps. Welcome to Red Cypress. My voice was low but forceful, and I stated precisely. Founder and CEO of this hotel is Hannah Blake. For a few seconds, the room stopped. Mrs. Dalton narrowed her eyes at me, golden hair in a tidy bun sharp as razors. Owner of this place is you? 2 more steps down, the light striking my collar reflecting the peace I had spent years creating. Indeed, from the very first basis to every chandelier she merely claimed was imported from Italy. Chase let out a strong gulp, and Emily became pallid. Mr. Dalton turned to Emily from his son. Your fiancé mentioned a family friend owned this motel. There definitely must be some kind of misinterpretation. Emily muttered, trying to save face. Hannah is my sister. We live really close together. This is only family looking out for one another. I moved in front of her and locked eyes. Close. So close that you threw an event here without asking, using my name, then shared disparaging footage to thousands of people the invoice beneath. Nobody said a thing. I looked over to Mrs. Dalton. I'm sorry for causing uncertainty. Clearly said, but just to be clear, Red Cypress neither sponsors, is not connected with, nor represents anybody outside of our professionally qualified and recognized team. Mrs. Dalton nodded gently. Her attitude totally changed. I appreciated your openness. People who realize their limitations really inspire me. Furthermore, their value. An uncommon quality, Mr. Dalton said, glancing perplexingly at Emily. Chase said nothing, but his expression said everything. Questions, shame, unease. Regarding Emily, she stopped dead still. I looked at Grace, who was cool as always. Please walk the Dalton family to the terrace. I personally will show them the official Red Cypress event venue. Mrs. Dalton grinned, thrilled as we would be. I went away not looking back. But Emily's heels trailed after in shaky click. Wait, Hannah. You are not compelled to create this kind of situation. I halted just enough to meet her and whispered gently, "This is me at last occupying the place I belong. It is not creating a spectacle." I headed home alone that evening. Not one party, no fireworks, no champagne toasts, simply me, my tiny cooking area, the soft golden glow, and a quiet this time that seemed different. Not hefty, not empty. Still, the quiet of closure is unsettling. My phone rang as I was brewing tea. I stopped watching the screen because of the name flashing there. Daddy, Blake Charles. I let it ring 3 times before I grabbed it. "I'm here." "Hey there, princess," he answered equally with a little discomfort. "You probably know the reason I'm phoning." I remained silent. Let him flounders. He started to clear his throat. "About afternoon events?" Simply said, "As you know." Perhaps you responded too forcefully. I groaned. Too strongly? Emily's birthday was indeed. Her birthday was throughout week. Everyone seems nervous. One does not have to exaggerate things. I sat down with tea still in my hand, unbroken. "Father, were you present?" I asked gently. She was seen at a distance. Emily get very carried away, yes. But she's still family? No. Dad, that is not inside the family. These are a bunch of blood relations that call it obligation, but continue to dump everything on one individual. On the opposite side, stillness prevailed for a few short seconds. Then he answered, "I just want harmony within the family. No arguments. Things ought to be settled amiably." I laughed a little, chilly laugh. "Calmly? You call me publicly insulted peace? You lie. Call Emily stealing my hotel and attempt to get me to guarantee a contract, no big thing. She is younger. She doesn't think ahead as far as you do. Not young, Dad. She is not. She is 30 years old. She chose. And you, Mother. All of you. You all decided to say nothing." His voice relaxed. "If you feel abandoned, I apologize. Still, I hope this won't imply you'll turn the family away." Rising, I felt a peaceful tiredness sweep over me. Nobody else is pressuring anybody, Dad. Simply moving back. I am weary. Weary of juggling everything, of being the provider and peacemaker. The shield each time Emily ruins anything and vanishes. "Anna, turning your back is not something you do." I shut him off. I am not turning my back. I am releasing myself. Releasing a part I never chose to perform. Stillness emanated from the opposite side. My father had nothing else to say at last, and I waited not at all. I hung there. The next day, my mother emailed me. Absence of a topic line, nothing greeting. Though you may not agree with Emily's behavior, your handling of matters before her fiancé's family was callous. Sometimes being the elder sister requires some little sacrifice, even in cases when the other individual... This file runs more than 30 minutes. To transcribe files up to 10 hours long, go unlimited at TurboScribe.ai.